Hello, my name is Doko, and I haven't had a real job in 6 years. I'm a full-time artist, and I have a house, and every day I make surreal and absurd art that I want to make. How did this happen? How is this possible in this economy? I want to tell you this story, and it's not about crypto, and there's no moral, it's just a story. I'm just telling you what happened. I dropped out of high school when I was 18. My parents kicked me out of my house and I needed to find somewhere to live. So I just lived in my girlfriend's house at the time, who was a mentally unwell person, and her mentally unwell mother just let us live in that house, not paying rent. And to be honest, actually, it took me a couple months to get a job. I was just sitting around smoking weed and drinking all day because I was 18 and I thought that was the life. I thought that was it. I had made it. Eventually, I got a job in a factory. I don't even know what I made in that factory. They just handed me pieces of metal and I had to smooth the pieces of metal. I don't know what I did. I heard that I was making airplane parts and medical equipment. Did that job for a couple months and then I quit, and my boss told me he was just about to fire me anyway, so it was good that I quit. Then I got a job in a supermarket for minimum wage, where I got shouted at by my boss. I was called an idiot for stacking vegetables and bananas wrong. Then I quit that job. This is a common theme. I got so depressed and felt like there was nowhere to go that I moved abroad, thinking that there would be jobs in France. I just thought there would be more jobs in France. There was no research. I don't know where I got that idea. Got a job in a bar where you needed to speak French. I had never worked in a bar, and I didn't speak French, but I lied and I told them I'm fluent in French and I worked in a bar for 2 years. I worked there for about 2 weeks until I got fired. The little bit of money that I had from that job, I used it to get a bus to Amsterdam. And this entire time, I had no savings. I always had about €100 in my bank account. So I get a bus with the last bit of money that I have to Amsterdam, and I worked in a hostel where I didn't get paid, but they let me sleep in the hostel. I was the janitor who slept in the hostel. And they didn't give me money, I just had enough money to buy food for a while. And then I eventually got a job in a fast food restaurant. And then I worked there for a good while before I quit. And the reason I'm quitting all these jobs is because it's soul-sucking, these 9-to-5 jobs. Like, I would do it for a while and just get the money and save whatever I could, and then quit as soon as it became unbearable. The next job I got was in a bar, and I actually had worked in a bar for 2 weeks, so I had the valid experience. I worked there as a barman and a chef, and eventually quit. I think I've quit every single job I've ever had, and not even like good quitting, like just one day I just cannot bear to go to work anymore, and I just call up and I say, yeah, I'm not coming in, and by the way, I'm not coming in ever again. So the thing where everything changed, I moved back to Dublin and I got a job as a barman in a hotel. And you know where this story's going. I worked there for a couple months until I couldn't bear it. I was just sitting on the couch. I called up and said, hey, I have a shift in 15 minutes. I'm not coming in. And I quit, and then hung up. And I did not know what I was going to do. And then I got evicted from the place that I was living. So now I've nowhere to live, I've no job, and I have like a month's worth of savings. I got this like emergency accommodation, which was a scam run by Indians, where I lived in an apartment with 7 Indians. And by the way, just a little side note, all the Indians slept in the same bed as each other. So, long story short, I had to leave that place at the end of the month. No money, no job, and no intention of going back to another 9-to-5 minimum wage job. I've no skills, because I didn't go to college. So what I did was, I contacted my grandparents. I don't know my grandparents. Like, I was sent to stay with them for a couple weeks when I was a kid, but like, I've no relationship with them. But I guess I was so desperate that I just called them up and I said, hey, it's me, you remember your grandson? Can I stay with you for a couple weeks? And because they're good Catholic, old Irish grandparents, they were like, yeah, of course, no problem. So I thought I was just going to stay there for a couple weeks until I could get an apartment and, I don't know, maybe another job. I really hadn't thought of it. I had no idea what was going to happen. And I stayed with my grandparents for a couple of weeks, and I realized this is a godsend. Because my entire adult life, I didn't know what it was like to live with your parents. And I'm living in this house where people wash my clothes for me and cook me dinner. What I realized about this like living at home situation was that I could actually focus on things that I'm good at. I could actually focus on skills, and I could actually do things that I wanted instead of having to just toil all day, every day. Also, what I noticed is when I didn't have to go to a 9-to-5 job, which I absolutely hated, I didn't feel the need to medicate myself with alcohol and drugs. That was a big, big part of this whole thing. Was when I actually did what I wanted to do in life, I didn't want to be drunk and high all the time. In fact, I wanted to be sober because I needed a good, solid mind in order to create what I was creating. I'd love to tell you that, like, and then I became an artist, but that's not exactly what happened. My grandmother, being an old Catholic Irish woman, was constantly insisting that I need to get a job. And I was absolutely certain that I'm just going to live in my grandparents' house and make art until I can live off making art. Now, I'm about like 21 at that time. That is quite delusional. That is not how it works. You don't make a living off art after living with your grandparents for 6 months when you're 21 years old. That was a far-fetched idea. So I guess somewhere I knew that I need to get a job of some sort. I contacted a guy who I worked with when I was 14 years old doing work experience in a digital media workplace. And I said, any chance you could meet me for a coffee or something? So I met up with this guy, and I was basically like, all right, so I'm 21, I live with my grandparents, I'm ready to become a full-time artist. How do I do that? I remember he asked me, do you have a computer? And I was like, no. He was like, get a computer. And I did. I got a computer straight after meeting that guy. I actually went straight to the computer shop. What he said to me was, and this was great, great advice, and this actually changed my life. He was like, you're not really going to make a living as an artist. And I was like, no, but you, like, I actually showed him one of my songs I was working on. I was like, listen to this. Like, this is actually really good. And he was listening to it, and he was like, this is really good. He's like, to be honest, man, this is really good, but you're still not going to make a living as an artist. Like, not in a year, not in 2 years. I didn't want to hear this. This was not part of my vision board, you know? But he was right. And so he says to me that he works in a radio station. And he was like, I can contact somebody because you have great skills. So he was like, get an actual computer that fucking works, and I will get you a job in a radio station, or I will just introduce you to somebody, and you get in there, you prove yourself, get that job, get money. It'll put you in the right place where you have contacts with people, and you'll have time to do art on the side. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm just being given a great job. I'm given an opportunity. I'm not given the job, but I'm given the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time. And so I went through with all that. I met with the guy who he put me in contact with, and I did all of the necessary stuff. I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I shadowed the sound engineer for the morning show. I did all of the things, the hard work that you have to do, and I did it with no hesitation, because I had the time to work on what I wanted to work on. And I had somewhere to live that I didn't need to be constantly obsessed about paying €800 a month for rent in somebody's living room. And I guess I'm saying this because a lot of people have like shame about living with their parents. I would live with my parents and my grandparents for as long as I possibly could, and I would have some sort of normal job, and I would do my stuff on the side. That saved my life. Now, I want to tell you about a couple of weird things that happened that took it in a totally different direction, but it still worked out somehow. I had that job in the radio station, and it was great. And I had a music project on the side, and I was traveling around to different countries playing shows to like 10 people. And it was actually horrible, but I was getting there. I was doing it. And so I had this show booked in Spain for like this tiny venue with probably about 10 people would have been there. And COVID hit. And so everybody had to be locked inside their houses. And I, fortunately enough, knew somebody who lived in Spain who I could stay with for what was supposed to be 2 weeks. And this should have been the worst thing that could have possibly happened, because I lost my job. This job in the radio station that I actually really liked. And this was like a prestigious job. This was like the top radio station in the country. Like that, it was gone. Because I was on contract work and I said, hey, I'm actually stuck in Spain. I can't go to work. And then they just never contacted me again. And that was it. When you work in a creative field, like, you don't get employment, you just get jobs. And I lost that job. And then the government handed out unemployment payments. I got social welfare because I lost my job because of the pandemic. And so they started paying me €300 per week, which was more than I was making in the radio station. So I was like, this is even better. Now I'm getting paid to stay at home. And that lasted for like 2 years. If I was working in the hotel that I was working at, I wouldn't have gotten that payment because hotels were kept open during COVID. But because I quit my job and got this like part-time, fun little side hobby in a radio station, I got paid for being unemployed for 2 years. Towards the end of the pandemic, I was working as an artist full time and I was doing like little jobs on the side here and there, but there was no motivation to do anything because I was getting this pandemic payment. And so I was living in Spain this entire time, and I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to Ireland for a holiday for no reason. I'm just going to go back for a week. And I contacted my grandparents and I said, I'm coming back to Ireland for a week. Like, would I be able to stay with you, or what's the story? And they were like, no, you can't stay with us because of COVID. But my cousin has a house and you can stay there. And I was like, I don't want to stay with my grandparents' cousin. And my granddad was like, oh no, she's in a retirement home, so no one lives in the house. I was like, wait, so there's just an empty house that I can stay in? And they're like, yeah, if you're happy with that, I mean, you can get a hotel or something if you prefer. I was like, no, I'll take the empty house. And so I came over just for no reason. I was coming back to Ireland. And I came to this house. And then I asked my granddad, like, who lives here? He's like, nobody lives here. I was like, can I live here? And he was like, oh yeah, that would actually be really handy because I need somebody to take care of the house. There's been a house here how long has this house been here? And he was like, yeah, probably about like since the start of COVID. So he was like, yeah, you can live in this house. And that's the house that I live in now. So this whole time, I quit my 9-to-5 job in 2018, and this whole time, these unbelievably once-in-a-lifetime lucky chances happened to me. And I don't know what the moral of the story is there, but I just feel like when I was working a 9-to-5 job, I was just working all the time, especially in bar work when it's not actually 9 to 5, it's like 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. You're just sleeping during the day. So when you have to find somewhere to live, you just find the first place that you can get. And you don't have time to actually like think about what you want in life. You're fatigued, you're tired, and you have money. So you think, all right, I work a job. I'm going to use the money that I have and spend it on accommodation. And it's unthinkable to live with your parents or your grandparents because you can afford to have your own place. But when you have your back against the wall, you are forced to get creative and you're forced to think of ways to sustain yourself. And I've just always found that when I'm forced to come up with ways to get money and to find somewhere to live, I find stuff that's outside the system that I wouldn't have found if I had a 9-to-5 job. And the reason why those things can be found, I think, is because most people are in that Monday to Friday 9-to-5 life, and they're not looking in the places where I'm looking because I have all the time in the world. I think there's a feeling from people who have like regular jobs. I think there's a feeling that like, I did all the right things. I got a job, I work Monday to Friday, and I still struggle. It's not fair that some kid who lives at home with his parents went on his computer and made shitloads of money on crypto because he took a massive risk, because he could, because he has nothing to lose. I can't take a big risk. I don't want to work 40 hours a week in this job I hate just to throw all of my money into a meme coin and lose it? I'm not gonna do that. That's a waste of my life. But then the person who's being resourceful and like whatever you would call me, I guess, you get money in little pieces here and there, and like you get a big break here, and then you take that money and you fucking hold on to it for dear life. And then when you see an opportunity, like, fuck it, I'm pushing my money into that. And then sometimes it comes back and you're like, holy shit, I just got fucking more money. How is this happening? But these things, this world is not open to the people who have the 9 to 5, because like they worked for this money. They don't want to lose it. So they're not taking risks, and they're just going to the job, getting money, spending the money on pain relief, which is weed and alcohol and Netflix subscriptions and takeaway and going to restaurants and holidays. I don't go on holidays. I don't go to restaurants. I don't do much, you know, but I just focus and I work and I just keep on going towards that goal of being a full-time artist. I take massive risks, and I'm not telling anyone to do that. I risk everything. I quit the job and I just go out into the world and see, like, let's see how I can survive today. And those risks, they just pay off sometimes. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my story. Here I am in the artist's studio, walls painted black, just the way I like it. What I want to just say to kind of wrap this up about what to take away from it, it's not the case that 9 to 5 jobs are bad and that there's nothing to be gained from them. I actually think the opposite. It's impossible for me to be an independent person without having gone through the trial by fire of knowing what it's like to work these jobs. I don't even know what kind of person I would be if I didn't have to go to different countries and just work these jobs and essentially being homeless for so long. All of that is what informed me and what gave me the strength and the perseverance to be my own person. I've no idea what it would be like if I didn't have to struggle, you know? But then I think it gets to a point where you feel like you've built your intuition and you know what's good and what's bad, what's dangerous, what's safe, and you can take more risk. That's why I think like the 9 to 5 is important, and it's like a launching pad for getting you out there. And it's really important to have a deep appreciation for the lucky breaks that you get, because I so could have just taken things for granted. And even now with this house, the fact that I can do this shit to the walls and everything, like, don't think that I'm just some mad guy who just goes into a room and like changes it however he wants it to be. Like, I'm 100% aware of like how lucky I am to be able to do this. But it's not just luck. It's the fact that you are appreciative, and it's the fact that you do work hard that can refine your intuition, build up your risk tolerance, and things just happen. Sometimes you'll be wrong, but you'll always have that intuition. Things will go wrong, but I will be able to cope. I can do this. Like, once you break the mold and you go out there and you look for things in places where other people aren't looking, things can happen. And I deeply, deeply believe that. The proof is that I haven't had a real job in 6 years. I don't know how that's happening, but I know it has something to do with intuition and just trusting yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out another video by me that's on screen, or log off, actually turn off the computer and just do something else that's productive and fun that's not on a screen. Whatever you want, it's up to you. Live your life. Go live your life. Why don't you?